What's up, everybody? It's Josh coming at you from Nerd Adventures Tower. I want to talk about Moon Knight Episode 5, what I liked about the episode, what I was not that fond of in the episode, and kind of my overall thoughts about where we're at with this show. Now, a couple of disclaimers that a lot of you will just straight up f***ing ignore. Number one, I don't hate the Moon Knight show. I actually like Moon Knight quite a bit. It's been a thrilling journey. I think the cerebral elements of it are on point. I think the special effects are super fun. It's crazy. It's wild. It's a lot of different things that I enjoy. I'm wearing a Moon Knight shirt that my fiance designed that we sell on our Teespring store. By the way, go buy all of them. Number two, obviously, we can't pass judgment on the show as a whole until we see the final episode. There's one episode left of Moon Knight, and it is possible that they wrap up everything they've sort of set up in the show so far, and we get a ton of awesome action in this final episode, and I'll look back at Moon Knight and be like, dang, that was pretty freaking crazy.
Yes! That's awesome!
But I do just want to say that I've never been this conflicted about a show before. It's so weird, and episode 5 in particular is very weird as well. Like, I've never loved an episode so much on an individual basis. Like, this episode is so on point. And yet at the same time, I feel so weird about the show overall. It's a really weird situation to be in. And so yeah, I want to talk about that. I want to kind of get into it. Let's begin with all the juice, the things that I loved about Moon Knight. First of all, damn, what a crazy dark episode of television. The acting and the performance by Oscar Isaac really sells this. There are definitely moments where the other actors and actresses are also carrying a lot of weight. Like the actress that played his mom, brilliant job. She's like haunting and just, it's like really scary. Like in a way that kind of, it's almost too much. It's like, it's beyond like horror film scary. It's like if you've ever interacted with people that are truly unwell, that do harm to other people, like, I don't know, man, this actress just really puts off that vibe. It's freaking settling, but it obviously works in the context of the show. I feel like Oscar Isaac, again, doing crazy amount of heavy lifting in this episode as Steven, as Mark, going through it all. And then there's this moment, man, where he's like breaking down in the middle of the street, at his mom's funeral, in that memory where it's like, damn, dude, like this dude is just literally, as far as like from a performance perspective, like so on point. It's unbelievable. He deserves to win some kind of award, some awards for this. This is just showing his full range. And I'm sure like as an actor, you sort of look to like sink your teeth into these kind of roles and give these kind of performances. It's like top notch, absolutely incredible. The visual elements of the show are fantastic. I think Hippo Lady looks fantastic, dude. It's on point, awesome. The ship in the sands, all of the visual effects in that, and at the end when the Field of Reeds, fantastic stuff. The shifting in between the different memories, using the doors in the asylum as a go-to in that. The fact that you get the craziness of Dr. Harrow and the meeting there, and him getting injected, all of that stuff, visually, cinematically, just so on point. Like, this is kind of like, if you're listening or watch this video, you're probably like, damn, like what? He loves this episode. Like, what's going on? And it's true. Like, I absolutely love this episode. I thought it was so damn brilliant. I guess ultimately, though, despite loving many different aspects of this episode, I found myself, after watching it, kind of mostly left with confusion and a lingering sense of disappointment, only because I realized we only have one episode left. It feels like there are various things that need to be tied up. And also, even if all of the last episode was straight up Mark Spector becoming Moon Knight again and fighting baddies and fighting against Arthur Harrow, that would really make the show have still a very few appearances of Moon Knight himself, right? And newsflash, I very much doubt that the full episode of the finale is going to be dedicated to a bunch of action with Moon Knight. It just doesn't seem like that's the way it's going to go. On top of that, and again, this really just kind of remains to be seen until we see the final episode, but this teasing of the Jake Lockley character and the confusion about what exactly was going on with the Scales and Steven is weird. I don't know what this like integration or what the healthy looking Mark Spector is going to be like in episode 6, because it kind of seemed like what they were saying was that the scales were unbalanced because Steven was a creation of Mark to try to like hide things from himself, and that the healthy version of Mark is no longer like having Steven at all, right? Like completely breaking that personality or separating that personality from the Mark Spector character. And number one, that feels weird because we've grown so attached to the Stephen Grant character, but also like, I don't know, is that actually like the way that you heal from this thing? I don't really know, but it kind of seems like that's what they're setting up. That whole thing is confusing. And it's one of these examples of like, you know, good fiction and trying to sort of respect the real world processes doesn't always mix together, right? Because again, you've set the story up to essentially be mostly about Stephen Grant, right? And now Stephen Grant is gone, and I kind of see no scenario in which Jake Lockley can be introduced and explained in the last episode without taking away from, again, what we think will be sort of the main conflict between Harrow and Moon Knight and that conclusion. So it's just weird that they would tease something like that out for this many episodes and not get to it. I frankly feel like the Moon Knight show should be much longer than 6 episodes. Like if it was 10 episodes and we were about halfway right now, I would be feeling completely fine because I'd be like, wow, this is absolutely incredible. And now we're going to be able to see some of this other stuff unravel or be concluded and have plenty of time to get into the Moon Knight punchy action stuff. But with 1 episode left, and all of this other stuff to be concluded, and a serious lack of Moon Knight. Like, I totally understand people that are like, oh, I just love the character. I love the way the story is going, the narrative and everything like that. I understand that. I respect that. In a lot of ways, this show is right up my alley, man. It's cerebral, it's psychedelic, it's mysterious, it's dark, it's all these different things that I love. But at the end of the day, it is a Moon Knight show. It is pretty weird to me that we've had like 5 minutes of screen time of the Moon Knight character. And by the way, you know, yes, there were, you know, the Warren Ellis run, the Jeff Lemire run. There's all kinds of moments within the comic books history of Moon Knight that focus on his illness and focus on an interesting visual way to explore those ideas and concepts. But there's a lot of Moon Knight just hanging out with the Avengers, punching baddies, just being a badass. So like, it feels like we're missing this whole other side of the character from the comics. And perhaps that's just, you know, what they were most interested in exploring for the show. I totally get that. But look, I'm just telling you straight up, as a fan of both aspects of the character, I don't feel like there's balance. For as much as they talk about balance in the scales, and like, where's the balance of the action and like Moon Knight doing badass Moon Knight stuff? And so I'm kind of conflicted. And frankly, the conflicting feelings I have are beyond just for this show in particular. I mean, if you look at the MCU shows that they've done on Disney Plus, almost all of them seem to deal with major trauma. They seem to almost all be like therapy type character studies. They all seem pretty sparse on action. And the thing is, like, for a show like Loki, which also didn't have a ton of action all the time, it at the very least had a ton of connective tissue to aspects of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I found myself as a Marvel fan being completely intrigued on what was going on with the TVA, what kind of clues and hints were we getting at like the wider context of the MCU. And I felt like I was learning more about Marvel and following a character study of the Loki character. It was like a perfect mix there. And in this show in particular, because there's very little connection to the wider MCU, and because there's a serious lack of action, especially with the titular character, that means the one the title is based on, it's just making me feel conflicted about the show. And just because I can feel a lot of you getting really angry and worked up, of course you can leave your comments in the comment section of this video, but come on by a live stream, man. We do live streams Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday in the morning on our live streaming channel. You can come on by and ask me a question or yell at me about my opinions in this video, and you can do it live and I'll react to it right then and there. I guess as a Marvel fan, I'm really starting to feel like these Disney Plus shows are side stories that are really not required reading for the major MCU stuff. It kind of feels like there's almost this attempt being made by Feige to preserve the sort of pristine quality of the theatrical releases that I think he wants to continue to do, because the movies all seem really on point. Like even Black Widow and Eternals, which are probably like sort of the lower tier of the new release movies, I still think they're absolutely fantastic, and they have a ton of action, a ton of character development. They're wholly put together Marvel projects. But these Disney Plus shows are really starting to feel ancillary in a way that I guess I didn't anticipate when it was all announced in 2019 at San Diego Comic-Con. I kind of felt like we'd be getting a little bit more of what we get in The Mandalorian, right? Where you're really driving incredible aspects of, I would call it cinematic history for the franchise in these Disney Plus shows. And it just doesn't feel like that's Marvel's priority. And so maybe I just have to sort of recalibrate the way I feel about these shows. Again, I'm a Marvel fan, guys. I love Marvel and I like the Moon Knight show. I just don't know if I love the Moon Knight show, and I really wanted to. I'm a big fan of that character from the comic books, and it's just interesting. Now, I will say too, just to kind of finish off here, that high possibility that some of the things are going to be sort of left lingering to do a second season of Moon Knight. And I guess I'm just curious, like, do you guys ultimately want a second season of Moon Knight? Because if I'm being 100% honest, of course, you know, bearing in mind, I don't know what's going to happen in the finale, but I don't know. I don't know that I want another version of this with the Jake Lockley character in season 2, where now we're re-exploring everything and it seems really weird and bizarre. But having said that, that's just one nerd's opinion, and I hope that wherever you are at, that you are having an awesome End a Nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.